Good morning. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Taxes Committee. This is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017. My name is Abdi Orsami, and I'm the chair of the Taxes Committee. And with me are council members Gordon, Bender, Yang, Johnson, Quincy, Fry, and Palmisano. And we have a quorum. We have a single discussion item on our agenda today. That is to receive the report of our Board of Appeals and Equalization. As you know, this special board is established under local authority to arbitrate disputes about the classification and market value of assessments of properties within the city. The board has the authority to decrease, sustain, or increase the market value of a property and to submit its recommendations to this body for final actions by the full city council. In accordance with city policy, board consists of licensed realtor, certified appraiser, and a freeholder or a property owner within the city. The staff report includes a statistical summary of the board's work this year, as well as copies of its proceedings. A resolution has also been drafted which concurs in the recommendations submitted by the Board of Appeal and Equalization, all of which is linked from the meeting agenda. Here to present the report is our city clerk, Casey Karl. Mr. Karl, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you. As stated, my name is Casey Karl. I have the privilege of serving as city clerk. As the chair indicated, I'm here to deliver the 2017 Board of Appeal and Equalization report as required under the city charter, under the city's code of ordinances, and various applicable state law. The report contains the recommendations of the board to change assessments on 6 properties located in Minneapolis, which must be confirmed by action of the city council. The 2017 board was impaneled on April 12 and conducted its meetings on April 12 and 26. A total of 1,305 appeals were filed with the clerk's office, and of these, only 6 were ultimately presented for a hearing before the board. A synopsis of final action is provided in a series of tables that were included with your briefing materials. Of the 6 appeals that were considered, the board recommended the valuation on 2 properties be sustained and that the valuation on 4 properties be decreased. The board did not recommend any increase in valuation on any properties. A total of 167 appeals have qualified for a hearing before the Hennepin County Board of Appeal and Equalization. If approved by City Council, the city's assessment rolls will be finalized to conform with the recommendations that were submitted by the local board, and then those rolls will be transmitted to the city assessor, the Hennepin County Board of Appeal and Equalization, and the state tax commissioner with requests to give full effect to the city's adjusted and corrected assessment rolls. Mr. Chair, the committee is now requested to approve the recommendations submitted to you by the city's local Board of Appeal and Equalization for 2017. Your city assessor, Patrick Todd, may have further comments, and then after that, we would both be willing to take any questions from the committee.
Mr. Todd.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, Patrick Todd from the Minneapolis Assessor's Office. I am the city assessor. Thank you for having me. It's a beautiful day. These meetings are always exciting to me because it means we're almost done with the 2017 assessment. It's an assessed value for January 2nd of 2017, and we're already into May. But it talks about how much time and effort it takes to get the assessment done as far as the actual valuations, and then going through the process of having the property owners then have the opportunity to appeal their values through informal appeals as well as the local board. And then after this, they would be able to go on to the county board if they weren't satisfied at the local board level, and then they could also go to tax court. To give you a few summaries of what happened at the local board, or actually the assessment, our tax base is around $47.3 billion at this point, which is a pretty significant number. In 2013, we were at about $32 billion. So in a short period of time, we went from 32 to 47 billion, which is about a 40% or a little bit more than 40% increase in just 4 years. You can see that we saw a significant increase in residential with 8%. We saw a significant increase in commercial as well as apartments in 10 and 13%. One of the benefits we see when we're seeing commercial and apartments growing is that actually we'll have a little bit of relief with the residential property owners when it comes to values for next year. As far as appeals, this is probably the 3rd highest number of appeals we've had since 2009, where we had 1,335. That did spike just because of the number of foreclosures that we did experience in 2008 and 2009. Since then, it did pull back, and we have done a great job, I think, following the market. I think we're seeing an increase in appeals just because, as I talked about, a $32 billion to a $47 billion increase in taxable value. People are very aware and conscious of their values, and in addition to their tax bill that goes along with that value. I would probably expect to see appeals next year. Right now, the real estate market, at least in the residential sector, is extremely active, and I would say it's extremely hot. Very much a seller's market. I was talking to somebody over the weekend. She lost out on 3 condominium offers and had to bid about $15,000 over her last condominium to make sure she got it on the 4th try. It's just there's so few houses out there to be purchased that the ones that are being offered for sale, in many, many cases, they're being bid for. This next slide here is appeals by ward. Not a lot to note. I can tell you that there was, in Councilmember Palmisano's area, we saw a significant decrease in appeals, and a lot of that happens is because the year before we had done a revaluation of a number of her neighborhoods, and during that revaluation, there's some realignment of properties and extra effort to make sure that those values are right, and that oftentimes generates more phone calls and more appeals. Councilmember Fry's neighborhood, we did quite a bit of the number of the condominiums in his ward this last year, and that's probably why you saw a spike in that. Yay. And appeals by a property type. Again, Minneapolis, we have about 111,000 out of the 130,000 parcels are residential, 111,000. And so it's obviously, we're going to have more residential appeals than anything else. Again, the slight increase in condominiums was primarily just because we spent a lot of time revaluing the condominium downtown. In fact, we did something when we did condominiums this year, we did something a little bit different. We really tried to emphasize community engagement. We worked with interns in last summer, the summer of 2016. We actually worked with the homeowners association or the management company, and we got permission to actually set up within the building with the interns, and they would greet property owners as they would be coming and going and tell them that we'd be doing an equalization of their building, and we'd take setting up appointments with them at that time, or give them the phone number and they would be able to call the assessor's office and schedule a time. And we probably saw a 30 to 40% increase in our inspections at that time, just because we were present, we were on the property, and we had the permission of either the management company or the homeowners association. So that was exciting, because anytime you get more data, you can see more properties, you're going to have a better assessment. So this is the second to last slide. This is our quintile, or our equalization. By statute, we have to look at 20% of the city every year. So everything in green was what we had done last year. That was about 27,000 parcels that we door knocked and door tagged. Everything in yellow is what my staff probably before the end of this month will start door knocking and door tagging as well. 27,000, that's about, I think we have 13 people that are doing the majority of that work. That is a lot of door tagging and a lot of door knocking, and I got to give my staff a lot of credit for that. Just a couple other statistics. Again, from 16 to 17, we increased the overall tax base by $3.7 billion. We did door knock and equalize 27,000 properties last year. We had $150 million in new residential construction, 168 in commercial, and 308 million in apartment construction. And then we also did about 1,300 phone calls where property owners were had called and had questions regarding their values. This is the number of engagements we had since the valuation notices went out. So the phones were quite active, but we did a pretty good job of getting all those questions answered. And if we couldn't answer their question, they were encouraged to go to the local board. Property tax relief. This was something that Councilmember Wasami had asked last year. What are we doing as far as getting information out? We had amended our valuation notice this year so that we did include a web link and information for property tax relief programs right on their valuation notice. So everybody had at least an opportunity to see the website and have some information. In addition to that, we did 3 mailings this last year to very targeted area. We did a separate mailing of an information card, I should say, that was written in Somali, was written in Spanish, and was written in Hmong. And we did targeted areas talking about property tax relief programs. So we're trying to get a better feel for if we're going to get a better return on the phone calls and feedback from the community, just trying to be more language specific into the areas that we're mailing. And then we do have an urban scholar this year, working on more community engagement and doing outreach into looking at language barriers is one of the problems with appealing your value or understanding the valuation notice. So, and I think with that, that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Todd. And we've been joined by Councilmember Reich and Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden. And I think Councilmember Yang has a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Todd, if you go back to the slide, I mean, looking at the complaints or I guess appeals filed by different wards, look at Ward 5 and, the numbers are pretty minimal. And, I have to tell you that I've been talking to folks in the community and folks have been talking about how they've been surprised or even maybe shocked by the fact that their values have, I don't know, I mean, increased. Some of them pretty significantly, almost even doubling. And, I guess, I mean, the two explanations that I can kind of point to with regard to that, I mean, one you alluded to, which is that the market has just increased. And so in some ways, I mean, we should expect that, the valuations are going up. The second is this quintile slide that you had, which is, I mean, let me ask you this: when we actually go out and look at properties, I mean, typically that causes maybe an increase. Is that accurate to say?
To the chair, Councilmember Yang, I would not say it necessarily increases it because because it's the properties are being modeled based on a computer-aided mass appraisal system. We're going to have the most accurate data when we've gone through the property, but I would not say they're going to be increased any faster or any more than everybody else, because the sales that are occurring, and we usually have around 5,000 sales, those sales are going to really predict or calculate what the value of those particular properties are. What's going to happen is, because we're only going to see a property once every 5 years, the condition can change from average to poor. It could change from poor to very good. And oftentimes, if it's done without permits, that's when we're missing properties. That's when you see those significant swings in 1 year. How could one property go up? Well, it's probably because when we were out there, we found that there was work being done or the condition had changed since the last time we had seen it, which was 5 years ago. So,
Okay. So when you actually see a property, I mean, it doesn't necessarily cause an increase or a decrease.
no.
Okay.
No.
But like you hear the stories about folks who kind of have maybe a feeling that an assessor is going to show up to their place. They just don't answer the door and stuff like that. I mean, that happens too, right?
Right. Absolutely. I would say that there's an effort on my staff's part that when they're walking by and they door knock a property and there's nobody there, they'll look at the condition, they'll verify the information on their property record. And if it says average, but the property looks like it's an average plus or it's in better condition because work's been done, they'll tag it and they'll make an extra effort to try to get into it. So would there be a higher relationship, a one-to-one relationship to if I saw it that the value is going to go up? There's probably a statistical number that would probably prove that, but that's because that's being tagged because we know that there's a condition issue and we need to see it. And if we can't get in it, then they will make that decision from the street saying, well, I couldn't get into it. They didn't let us into it. I'm going to change it to an average plus. And then if the owner calls and says, hey, my property went up and it's not that nice, then we get out there, we take a look at it, and we move it back down. It's not punitive, but they're making the best decision from the street. But there is definitely an effort that when the value on the building characteristics on the card are not right, that we have to follow up with it with a phone call and tagging that particular property. So.
Okay. And so unless we actually see it and inspect it, I mean, we're making a very, very educated guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question, Mr. Todd. On slide 6, when you have the colors, the green and the orange quintile neighborhoods, just so that I can explain to residents this year, the green, the quintile neighborhoods 2017, is that you're looking to go through that neighborhood for taxes payable in 2018. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
So the 2018 on here would be for taxes payable in 2019?
Sure, go ahead.
Councilmember Orsami and Councilmember Palmisano. Actually, what this is showing you is the Those in green are the properties that were inspected for the assessment year 2017. So we visited those during the summer of 2016.
Got it.
And so the next one would be the ones that we're going to visit this
This
summer
year.
for the next assessment year.
Thank you.
I apologize. I didn't hear that. And by the way, that was my director, Rebecca Malmquist. So thank you.
Any other questions? One final time, any other questions? No, no questions. So thank you, Mr. Todd, and I move to accept the 2017 report of the Board of Appeal and Equalization and to adopt the resolution which concurs in the recommendations that have been submitted for those appeals conducted by the board this year. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the 2017 report of the City Board of Appeals and Equalization will be submitted with a recommendation for approval to the full City Council, which will immediately follow the adjournment of this meeting. Before we close, did you have any further comments, Mr. Karl?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Before the committee adjourns for the year, I would like to extend a thanks to the members of our local Board of Appeal and Equalization who served this year. Those members are Ted Marinak, our certified appraiser, Sandy Lesher, our licensed realtor, and Earl Netwall, who is our freeholder or property owner in the city of Minneapolis. I also would like to give some recognition to the staff who support the board. From the clerk's office, Sue Quinto, who is our program assistant and is with us today, is responsible for receiving all of those applications. So those thousands of appeals that come through are going through her hands at the same time that she's doing our spring cycle board and commissioners appointments. This year, we actually hired a seasonal staff person to help, and her name is Zoe DeChico, and she's also with us. This was an improvement that we worked out with the assessor's office because the clerk serves much like if the Board of Appeals is a court, serving as a court function. The city clerk is the clerk of that court, and the city assessor then is one of the interested parties in those proceedings. So the clerk's office provides all the support for the board, recruitments, training, and staffing for that. And Sue and Zoe did all of that work this year to ensure another successful year. And Rebecca Malmquist, who is the chief assistant appraiser or assessor for the city, who's with us also, has worked very hard in the last few years to make this process not only easier and streamlined from an administrative standpoint in partnership with my team, but has also worked to make the process easier, smoother, and more user-friendly for the property owners and taxpayers of the city. And I think that the last 2 years' processes have made that evident. We've streamlined not only the way the meetings are conducted, but we've improved our communications, as Mr. Todd indicated, in outreach to communities. We've done more effort to engage and inform and educate people, and Rebecca has been at the forefront of those efforts. And of course, then I would like to thank Mr. Todd for his partnership. The City Assessor's Office is at the forefront of really making sure that our property owners are treated fairly, treated correctly, and help to contribute to, of course, the city's treasury, which allows us to provide services to all of our residents. So I would like to recognize and thank them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karl, and also to Mr. Todd and your entire team for the great work that you've done. We appreciate the good work of the members of our local board and all the professional assessors of our city, and I would like you to forward that to your entire team, Mr. Todd. Thank you very much. And with that, seeing no further business before the committee, we are adjourned.